It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Good morning. Have that first cup of coffee. Enjoy this moment because the rest of the day is going to be hell. No,
yeah, get used to it. You might as well be playing some Megadeth pretty loud right now because the day's just going to get louder as it goes on.
You know, we had played the last couple of days audio from Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary that is talking about the Trump case in New York. And the most fascinating thing, because the results is what we expected. We didn't know that if he was going to go, up to, raise another $100 million as they did. But we knew Trump was already found guilty, and we knew they were going to make a statement when it came to the money.
Yeah.
And we knew that they were what they were trying to reach for. Now, it's an abomination what they're doing. But I think one of the most interesting things that has come out of this is, again, O'Leary talking about winner states and loser states. It's something that you and I asked the question on. I don't have the answer. I can't give you the answer as to, well, this is exactly where it's going to end up in this particular time frame. Mm-hmm. But it's something that you and I have, discussed just in general. And I think maybe some of the remember when was it the estimates of what the population of states would be in 75 years?
Yeah.
And it was the fact that Texas would, be over 100 million people, Texas alone, in 75 years. And then you would have North Texas, where we are, basically Dallas-Fort Worth, which is roughly 7.5, maybe 6.6 million. We'll have 35 million people in 75 years.
Right. And New York will be Will Smith and several mannequins.
But Los Angeles will grow, but not nearly. I mean, at a rate of, I think it was a couple of million more over a 75-year period.
Right.
Now, most of that has to be from, most of that's not coming from births.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming from immigration one way or another.
Right.
I don't see that the futurists are looking there and say, oh, the birth rate's going to drastically increase. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's, as we know, everything goes in ebbs and flows.
Well, it's interesting because that's a great thing to ponder here, because right now, and I don't know if it's generational or if it's one of these semi-permanent things as a society where, yeah, we're just not into having kids and families, and it's going to last for a few decades. I can't tell you. Now, they say when disasters strike or after there's wars and everything else, that's when you see, the growth in population. But I don't know that necessarily happens if indeed there are, and there will be, disasters and probably some wars between now and then. But I don't know what brings it back, what changes the mentality, because I don't know if it's just generational or one of those perma-generational things that is society saying, yeah, maybe having more people isn't a good thing.
And the reason I find this fascinating is when you look at these states and you look at New York and California, and they're quadrupling down on insane policies. Eventually, as we have stated, and you're seeing it right now, which is why I think the public is slowly becoming independent, more moderate, where they're rejecting what's going on by the polls. The polls show that on the specific issues, they reject where the Democrats are on it. But what I'm fascinated by is you saw it again today when it came out that California's budget deficit is worse than anticipated and much worse than Newsom projected. The tug-of-war between California Governor Gavin Newsom and the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office is, I have to ask the question, is anything nonpartisan in California?
Nonpartisan.
Texas, yes. Austin. We'll get to that in a moment about the police coverage in Austin. They don't have enough police in certain areas. There was one area had 0 police at one point over this past weekend. No police to answer a call.
Wow.
We'll get to that. But a tug-of-war between Newsom and the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office over the state's projected budget deficit took a new turn Tuesday when they announced a revised shortfall of $73 billion, $15 billion more than previously forecast, and significantly more than the $38 billion gap that Newsom has estimated. They reported that recent revenue collection data reflect even further weakness for the state's financial outcome. All else equal, this means the budget problem is likely to be higher when the governor gives his revised projection of the state's finances in May, the group said in a Tuesday update. Roughly a $24 billion erosion in revenues corresponds to a $15 billion increase in the budget problem. This would expand to $58 billion, estimated deficit to $73 billion under our updated revenue forecast over the next year. And the problem isn't. This is reality. It's not. I know everything is political, but this isn't political. It's reality. If people are moving and you create a tax system in a state where the rich are paying, the top 1% are paying 50% of the taxes. And I think that, and I'm using that as an example because I think it was close to that in New York when Cuomo was president, and that's where he said we can't do this millionaires
or
tax.
Governor, yeah.
What'd I say?
President of New York, I mean, if you want to phrase it that way, but yeah.
Well, he
was an almost hopeful in 2020.
That's not a Freudian slip because he's not going to be the president come November.
No, he
will
won't
not be.
No.
But remember at that we said I can't be for this millionaires tax. I can't be left because reality is hit.
Right.
On this. And when you have in these states so many of these billionaires, and think about it. Think about New York with everything that's happening now. You know, anybody in the corporate world is going, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because the state, if this stands, the state can come after us for something that is not fraud, but a negotiating tactic. There is no paper being signed that you are stating that this is the actual value under penalty of perjury. In fact, the opposite happened. He put a disclaimer on. This is what I believe it's worth. You do your due diligence, get back, and we'll negotiate. And they did.
Yep.
And so you look at everything else, which would make, and by the way, you see it with somebody like Elon Musk. Did you ever think that Musk would say, you know, let's go to Texas?
Well, I mean, I wonder how many companies, will do the same. I mean, if you look at, like, especially the big publicly traded companies, they're going to have to, go through shareholder approval on things like this. But if you're a shareholder, you got to look at it and go, we need you to protect our money. We need you to be as profitable as you could be. So, yeah, you got to go. And so now, I don't know where it is because there is going to be this run. There's a lot being made about the trucker strike and, or the calling for a trucker strike in New York and the whole thing. This actually, and people have been reaching out to me, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? Well, I don't drive a truck for a living. So but observing it for decades now, you and I have seen it where there's been a protest here and a protest there from truckers. But it has been kind of a constant and a growing thing for truckers to say, I'm not going to haul to the Northeast because of tolls, too many tolls. Can't make a profit. I'm not going to haul California because of the California Air Resources Board and their restriction on engines. I'm not going to haul, so avoiding certain states has been going on for a long time. So where New York may not see this, it won't necessarily be a one-time media attention on a strike by truckers, but more and more companies, including trucking companies, saying, we can't do that. How do you negotiate rates if you're a trucking company in New York? I mean, any financial transaction where there is any negotiation on rates is going to be under the looking glass, and you can't risk that at all.
Right.
So I think, when it comes to a strike, it's not about the strike. I think it's about the long-term effects on that state by all businesses and industries, including trucking.
Well, when you heard, again, and we stated about an hour and a half ago that one thing that worries us is the fact that, is this the Democrats, are they thinking, because if I'm thinking it, some Democrat socialists have thought of it. Is this
right.
the ability for us now to control prices of these major corporations? Because as we've talked about, when, and we asked the question, and it's not, but is the MSRP of every car, is that fraud?
Right.
Everybody knows that's not the worth of the vehicle. Yet that's what they're promoting of the MSRP, and you go in and you negotiate. But you can make the case under this law that when dealerships do that, that's fraud.
Mm-hmm. Well, dealerships compete, too, we'll give you, we've got a model here or one car of this model that we're going to discount and bring you in, right? On the used lot, on pre-owned.
Yeah.
Same thing. We're going to be, they all want to be competitive. The dealership is trying to make as much money as they can, and you as a buyer are trying to save as much money as you can. Both of you are at fault, by the way, under in the eyes of the Attorney General of the state of New York.
Well, I'm glad you brought up used cars. I want to sell the vehicle for $20,000. Blue Book says $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole point is, what is the fraud of Trump? Because what is the worth of that property?
Right.
And at that point, nobody knows what the worth of the property is. The only way you know the worth of that property is after all the negotiations have been done, the price that both sides agreed to.
Right.
That's it.
Well, remember.
And so when you talk about used cars, well, how do you know what the true value of a car is? Look, George Costanza was willing to pay more to get John Voight's car in Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when John Voight, John.
John.
And he starts laughing. It's like, get out of the car.
Well, and but think about this. Remember when eBay was really starting to be on the rise, and then people would, hey, I'm selling lint I found in my couch. A bag of it for $1 million. And then it would go viral. People would talk about it and laugh at it. For posting the listing, the Attorney General could come after you.
What stops it? And when, look, I know that the left knows the problem with this law and how it could be used in other ways by Republicans when Republicans get power in New York in the year 2525.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they know it, and that's why the anchor who was arguing at CNN, Coates, with Kevin O'Leary, was saying, well, this is about basically equity.
Yeah, right.
This is a way to bring other investors. It's like,
yeah,
no.
So everybody has a chance.
Oh, so you say that in order to do the equity, you accuse somebody and convict somebody in civil court of a crime that they did not commit.
Well,
Because she's not saying they have him rock solid, and she's a lawyer and said she was a lawyer, and I'm waiting for her lawyer speak. And what I got was, well, things aren't fair. And so all the big developers, shouldn't be able to push all the smaller developers out. Well, I didn't know that was even part of the trial.
yeah. Well, but, after raising generations of kids to believe that you don't get a score, right, on the field, everyone gets a trophy. Well, then when it comes to capitalism, everybody gets an opportunity. Everyone on the team gets to play. It doesn't work that way, including the big guys like Trump. There are companies that have been around for a long time, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. That's competition. That's the changing marketplace. Right now, the battle is between Amazon and Walmart. Remember when it was Target and Walmart? Well, it's going to change, and maybe one day there is no more Walmart. Maybe there's no more Amazon. But who decides that? If we're going to let the government come in and decide, and they're very, on the left, they're very much proponents of deciding winners and losers, well, then all of a sudden everyone gets to play, but nobody gets to win.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
The final week of meteorological winter looks much more like spring in some parts of the country.
According to the National Phenology Network, we are seeing leaf out for trees occurring up to 2 weeks early in a broad stretch from the southern plains all the way to the Carolinas and southeastern Virginia. And we are also seeing some record early leaf out in parts of Northern California as well as the Pacific Northwest, mainly west of the Cascades, where spring also is coming incredibly early this year.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says potential ag impacts include vulnerability to freeze events for small grains and blooming fruit crops. But for now,
we are looking at temperatures early this week that will be topping 80 in much of Texas. And then following a brief cool down later this week, it looks like that warm weather is going to come roaring back across the south next week, even stronger,
with the potential for those temperatures to rise and expand to other parts of the country. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I really think that's a fascinating question, and I know it hit off inside. It hit inside me again when Kevin O'Leary started talking about winner and loser states, because that will get people upset. But that's fine. But what he's saying is, economically speaking, now because of this decision, you're going to have a ton of businesses that say we're done with New York, because this isn't a New York City thing. This is a New York thing.
Yeah, it's the whole state.
That's the entire state. If you do business, and with everything else going on with people, it's on their minds all the time. I've got buddies that live, up there, and some will tell me, I wish I could move, but I just can't.
Right.
And others are like, nah, we're going to end up moving. We're going to end up moving. We're going to end up moving. When you're up there, that one of the constant conversations going on from everybody every once in a while is, should we move?
Right.
Do we need to get into a lower tax state? And has New York gone too far? It's a regular conversation.
Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I haven't looked in a while, so I just went to the Babylon Bee, some of the headlines. New York mayor warns migrants if they keep attacking New York Police Department officers, they'll be downgraded to 4-star hotels. I know what I forgot to tell you.
Huh?
When I was up in Buffalo,
Yeah.
remember all the migrants who were at that one hotel?
Oh, yeah.
They're
Yeah,
now
yeah.
suing because of all the criminal activity that was taking place. They're suing the state, or they're either suing the state or the county. They're suing some. But they've got a lawsuit filed now.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah, yep,
Bound to happen.
Let me see here. Okay, what else do they have? The headlines from the Babylon Bee: Trans basketball player achieves rare triple-double, 36 points, 14 rebounds, 11 concussions. And
Wow.
that's from that story that we did earlier on the show. I mean, it's reprehensible that that's happening. I as a parent, if I had a daughter, I'm going to find another league. I'm going to find something else. But you know something? They're playing high school basketball. They may be trying to get a scholarship. I don't know what I would do. Because she would know.
Well,
she would know it was unfair. I'd know it was unfair.
But do you take it completely away from her? I mean,
yeah, that's my whole point.
Yeah, and by the way, the left knows this too. They know that parents are in that conundrum. They know how to play this game because they know, many of them know they're going to war with the parents. But what do? What are you going to take your child out of sports? Move your child to a different school? Your child wants to be competitive, which we're going to stifle anyway.
Right.
But if you want to be the bad guy, parents will let you be the bad guy. And it's maddening. It really is maddening.
Yeah. And we were, I believe, the first ones. Now it's been used quite frequently, but we said this a long time ago. And thanks to our listeners when it came out, I forgot who said that. Somebody in Congress, when they were talking about it late last year, started really attacking the misogyny of it.
Yeah.
And we got, and thanks to our listeners that remembered, said, you guys brought that up years ago. And it's true.
Yeah.
Because of misogyny now practiced, which is mainstream in the Democratic Party. Because 99% of the Democrats in Congress are for men playing against women.
Yep.
We know it because of how they voted on the equity bill.
Yep.
Didn't pass the Senate, but it's there.
Yep.
And so when you look at, it's unbelievable. I can't, when it comes to identity politics and we talk about the racism, but the racism and misogyny that is so absolutely apparent to anybody who just sits for a moment and looks back and go, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they've mainstreamed it, and then they dare to sit there and call the other side racist and transphobic.
Yeah.
And the other headline, one more headline. This is my favorite. President Xi appointed to serve on San Francisco's election commission.
Actually, we need to double check that. That might be a real headline. We think the Babylon Bee made that up and didn't borrow that from the Chronicle.
There was one story here in the last week. I forgot what it was. You and I talked about it. We went, well, that's the truth. I forgot what the story was. Wait a minute. There's nothing exaggerated there.
Yeah.
This isn't a parody. It's the truth.
Yeah. I mean.
But haven't they, the Babylon Bee last year, remember they put out all the things that we have said that came true?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All the headlines that we went, these are such ridiculous headlines, but you're trying to make a point, and the Democrats actually go that far and even surpass the parody of what the Babylon Bee was talking about in the past.
Well, the Babylon Bee, still the writers are genius in what they do, except, here's the question, is it getting easier for them because the humor lies in the absurdity, and absurdity is reality, and you see it just with simple observation. I'm not saying, again, that they're not genius, but a lot of it is being served up for them pretty easily by the left today. I'll just put it that way. Just like our show. We used to have to work at this. Not anymore. Show prep now is trying to haul it all in and then fit it all in. It's got to be quite the same at the Babylon Bee. Amazing. Good stuff.
So this story happening in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
As we have told people, there's Texas and there's Austin, which is extremely liberal.
Right.
And they were all backing the city council a few years back for defunding the police and all that. Well, what's going on now? A section of Austin, Texas, this from Fox News, was left without a single police officer for a couple of hours on Saturday, as the police union's president is blaming ongoing staffing shortages. Austin Police Association President Michael Bullock tweeted Saturday that an entire sector in East Austin went 2 hours without a patrol officer assigned to that sector.
Wow.
He said that the department's backfill shift, made up of detectives and specialized units pulling double duty, had to provide coverage. Bullock blamed the circumstances on staffing woes. He said APD's staffing was at 2006 levels when the city had 250,000 fewer residents. Austin's population is now hovering just under 1 million. Bullock told Austin's Fox 7 that the situation on Saturday was not normal, as APD would typically have somewhere between 10 to 14 officers that might be available or working that particular time in that location. They had 0. A few days before, Bullock said the APD's downtown day shift had only 6 officers and 4 got pulled to guard city council. Their downtown day shift.
Wow.
Had 2 cops.
Wow.
So only 2 officers were available to answer 911 calls, Bullock said. Officers want to help the people of Austin. The city wants bodyguards. Bullock told Fox News Digital that the Austin Police Department is about 500 officers down from where staffing once was, and around 700 to 800 officers short of what the city's own studies have previously recommended. Now, if you're somebody who is a conservative and, in Austin, and there's still, 1 or 2 left. No, but if you're a conservative,
the governor and his staff,
the governor and staff, we understand your predicament, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But the fact is, this is what the people of Austin want.
Yep.
Not conservatives, not Republicans.
No, this is
but it's Democrat dominated. This is what Democrats want.
Yep.
They don't want police protection.
Nope, not at all.
It's that simple. They don't wish to protect the citizens of their city.
And the local leaders, I mean, if you think about it, politically, this has been going on for a while now. And when you build this out, you're going to have, less of a desire for people to serve as officers in cities like Austin and other liberal cities around the nation. This is exactly what we're seeing. I don't know how you recruit. And then I don't know how you retain after you recruit, because that's a big part of it. You get that experience, and then, boom, you go off to a suburb somewhere and where you're appreciated and local leaders support you and the citizens support you. And that's where you want to serve, where you can do the job.
Well, I'm an adult now, because now when I go down, when I go home, by the time I get into my city, the last 7 miles is, roughly on, suburban, 4-lane suburban streets.
Mm-hmm.
They're main drags. And I'm always, used to seeing cops go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, our police department, I haven't seen it lately. Maybe I'm just haven't seen it on Facebook. Sometimes the algorithms go long. But they've always had a history of telling you, what they're doing overnight and the people they've got overnight when they make stops. Because my police department in my city, if you have a light out and you're going down that road, they're going to pull you over.
Yeah, right.
But I look, and like I said, you can tell I'm an old adult now, a very old adult, because I have, if I was 16 with my license, it would be, oh, good, we don't see any cops.
Yeah.
And now it's like, where are the cops? Normally I see 3 or 4 going home. Where are they? They hiding. So, that it's now a concern.
Yeah.
But when you think about that in Austin, and we said when they started supporting the whole defund the police stuff, that was insane. That was absolutely insane. And that's number one. Number two, it was based on a lie.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And now you created an environment where people don't want to serve as police officers.
Yep.
And that shortage will continue. I don't know what turns that around, actually. I don't know how long that shortage could go on.
Well, you talk about, police officers, and we talk to a lot of police officers who say, look, the public is really great, but if you're a police officer out there and you're not getting any respect from the public, that's something that probably could bother you. But if you're dealing with criminals, you might expect that. There's going to be a certain antagonism. But when the people in your management, which is the city that you work for, is doing everything possible to make the job that you're doing and sacrificing, and I've said this all along, that because the excuse is, you'll hear this, well, they volunteer for it, so they shouldn't be complimented for it. No, the fact that they volunteered to do these jobs is why we should let them know how much that we appreciate them and how we wish to make it as a city council and as a city so they can do their job, which I'll use the stereotypical logo, so they can protect and serve.
Right.
Which is true. It may be a stereotype that you see out there, but it's true. That's what they do. But they took a lie. And we brought up the study yesterday because the guy who did the study from Harvard, they couldn't find any racism. In fact, it's more likely. That was the study that was done, and they did it twice because they didn't believe it. It's more likely that a white person will be shot from the study that they did than a black or Hispanic person.
Right.
The odds are, And when they did that, they were told, you better not print this. You better not print this. He said, I'm a researcher, and he printed it. And he said he was shocked. He thought it was going to be complete opposite.
Right.
Because that's where the narrative of the public was. Police departments are systemically racist to hunt down and kill blacks. That was a lie.
Yep.
And not only was it promoted by Black Lives Matter, it was promoted by corporate America. It was promoted by the NBA. It was promoted by the NFL. Probably everybody else got in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was based on a lie. Everybody was in on the lie.
Yep. And here we are now.
And now
struggling to find people who want to serve.
Yeah. You bought a lie, Austin, and now this is what you're dealing with.
Right. And the criminals have their way.
Right. Maybe next time you shouldn't buy into a lie. Maybe you should seek to find the truth. Of course, not talking to our
There's
listeners.
A novel idea.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I saw this story yesterday. A Pennsylvania food supplier warns Americans are getting squeezed by inflation and are now becoming resistant to higher prices.
This is what we were bringing up, I think it was last week. Are they getting to the point of, this is the new normal things? Well, because at some point you have to start believing that prices aren't coming down. They're not going to come back down. You're not going to regain that spending power. I mean, it's only natural to reach that point where you go, yeah, I guess this is it.
I notice every time I go to the supermarket now, every single time, doesn't matter what I buy, my bill's over $100.
Yeah, right.
And I think back to even a year ago, and I'd have a bunch of times I'd go 55, 60, 70, whatever.
Right.
And I haven't changed my purchasing habits.
No, it's expensive.
That's the increase. It is.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.